Ontario's government is veering off track from its climate change targets. The province's Environment Ministry has been quietly monitoring the issue, but now, for the first time, the numbers are being made public. CBC's Mike Crawley has been looking over those numbers. He joins me live from the Ontario Legislature. What are you learning, Mike?
Well, Suhanna, it's Ontario's Auditor General that dug up these internal reports that Ontario's Ministry of the Environment has been doing for the past year. And basically, these are forecasts about how the Ford government is going to achieve its 2030 targets for climate change. And so Ontario is committed to the same reductions as the federal government is planning for 2030. And so what that would mean for Ontario basically is around 17 megatons of greenhouse gas emissions cut by 2030. And the Ford government, has laid all of this out in its environment plan and sort of said, well, we'll find these emissions here and we'll find some emission reductions there. But these new internal documents show that quite a few of these reductions are not at all on track to happen. And when the math is done, again, according to the government's own estimates, Ontario is basically going to only hit 1/5 of the emission reductions that the Ford government has promised by 2030.
And Mike, what is the Ford government saying?
So, in response to this, the Minister of the Environment here, his name's David Piccini, he's talking about a few things that the government has done recently that didn't get captured in this Auditor General report. So some moves to help reduce emissions in the cement industry, some moves to help the big steel plant in Sault Ste. Marie cut its fossil fuel use. But, even by the government's own numbers, these are only really incrementally getting Ontario any closer to those 2030 targets. So at Queen's Park, I asked Minister Piccini, I said, can you look Ontarians in the eye and say that you're going to hit those 2030 targets? And here's his response.
I can look Ontarians in the eye and say Ontario is a leader in greenhouse gas emissions reduction in this federation. We are the only province responsible for Canada's progress. That is Ontario.
And if you were listening closely there, you'll realize that he didn't actually respond to my question. He did not actually say that Ontario is going to hit those 2030 targets. On this issue, I also spoke to Keith Brooks. He is Programs Director with Environmental Defence.
I think it tells a story that Ontario is not serious about fighting climate change. Their Made in Ontario Environment Plan was never a serious plan. There was never any math that they provided to back up what they had put in that plan. The Auditor General has shown they're not following through on the plan, and now her latest report shows that they know, in fact, that they are nowhere close to meeting their own targets to fight climate change.
Now, we often perceive climate change and reducing emissions as a federal government issue because obviously it's the federal government that signs on to the international treaties, that goes to Glasgow for COP26. But Keith Brooks mentioned that there are a lot of things that are provincial jurisdiction that contribute to emission reduction. So control over the electricity sector, over transportation policy, over the building code, because our houses, the heating our houses creates a lot of emissions. And so these new reports kind of indicate that the Ford government is going to have to bring in a bunch more changes if Ontario is going to have any hopes of hitting its 2030 climate targets. And those are, of course, a big part of helping Canada reach those targets.
Thanks for that, Mike. CBC's Mike Crawley at the Ontario Legislature in Toronto.